Ladies and gentlemen, people, especially fans of the Alien and Predator franchises, were quite chagrined when Disney pretty much bought them out, because all of those characters now came under the purview of the mouse. We have already seen, especially with the release earlier this year of Thor: Love and Thunder, how Disney has, in essence, completely destroyed the Marvel comic universe by inserting its woke agenda little bit at a time until it finally culminated in this year's release, Thor release, and the Marvel universe is dead. It is now Disneyized. So all of their movies are going to contain the exact same, different writers, of course, different characters, but the agenda will be the same throughout all of them. Well, what people who are fans of Alien and Predator feared has now come to pass. With the release of a movie called Prey, this is probably the only movie in the Predator franchise that doesn't have Predator in the title. There's probably good reason for this. Do those people who had all of that angst about Disney taking over these characters, do they have a legitimate complaint? Yeah, they do. There are some clever things in this movie, but wow, you can see the mouse is beginning to permeate the legend. Cinematic class is about to begin, and your professor is in. Greetings, salutations, and other sundry affair. I am your cinematic professor and purveyor of truth in movies, and tonight's lesson plan, obviously, is Prey, the latest in the Predator franchise, coming to us from the fine folks at Disney. Now, I'm using this 20th Century Fox Entertainment graphic surrounding my luscious head because this may be one of the few times that I actually have an opportunity to use this. I mean, 20th Century Fox, for all intents and purposes, is going the way of the dinosaur. No offense to Rex Real, and I might as well use this while we can. All right, let me be very positive first. There are a couple of really good things that happen in this movie. So let's start with the very positive notes. And I want to start off first with J.J. Park. Now, if that name does not ring a bell, it threw me off guard too, okay? J.J. Park does the fight choreography for the battle scenes. And, I saw the name and I said, well, the fight scenes look pretty decent. Okay. The confusion comes in because most of you who, especially if you're fans of martial arts action films, will know J.J. Park as Park Jong-jin. That is how he started out in the business, and that is how he made his name, and that is the name now I remember. So he's Americanized his name, I guess. But he does a good job in staging the fights for the movie, especially the hand-to-hand combat scenes. I have another thing I want to mention about J.J. Park, or Park Jong-jin, who is his real name. For a while there, he was working with Jackie Chan's stunt team, and that's certainly high kudos and high praise, if you're part of that team. Now, it's interesting because he didn't stay with the team long enough to actually be listed, so he was like an uncredited, performer, but he was with them for a bit of time, and that's a whole lot of gravitas. Okay, another element that I think is worthwhile in the movie is Dane DeLiegro. Now, Dane DeLiegro will probably be a name that you recognize if you are a huge basketball fan or if you herald from the state of New Hampshire. Dane went and played basketball at the University of New Hampshire. In fact, I think he still holds in second place the rebounding record for a single season. And after he played basketball in New Hampshire, he went and played professionally in the European League. He played for both Italy and for Israel. And Dane has taken over the role or the duties, if you will, of Kevin Peter Hall, and he is playing Predator. Now, Dane is 6'9", so he's a pretty big boy. He's not as big as Kevin. I think Hall was maybe 7'4", if I remember correctly. So that's a little bit of a difference in height. And you can see where that comes into play on a couple of scenes. The blocking isn't quite up to snuff, so he does look like a smaller Predator. But he's got enough height, especially on the lead character, that he looks impressive. He is a basketball player, so therefore he is thin, and I guess we could call him wiry. So he doesn't have the bulk that Hall did, certainly, and he probably would not have looked good playing against Arnold, who was massive at the time of the movie. But he holds his own pretty well, and he does a pretty good job of playing the Predator. Now, talking about the Predator, we've got to give a little tip of the hat here to Mike Fields. He's the guy who went and designed the Predator. You have to remember that this movie takes place in the year 1719, okay? So we're dealing with a Predator who is roughly some 300 years before we came to know him in the original movie. As such, this Predator looks different. In 300 years, a species certainly will change. And so this Predator does look a little bit different. His armament is really different. And therein lies a little bit of a conundrum because while he doesn't have the shoulder cannon and he doesn't have, laser beams and what have you, he somehow manages to still have a type of laser targeting sight, which, 300 years ago probably would have been a bit of a stretch. Instead of it shooting laser beams, now it'll shoot arrows. so the lasering, the triangular, that might be a bit much. And remember back, there was a huge argument with the X-Men. And that was especially with Wolverine. And the argument was that he could not shoot his claws out until he was infused with that metal. What the hell was that metal name? Titanium. Not titanium. Adamantium. I think that's what it was. There it is. Adamantium steel claws that came out. But actually, if you follow the X-Men, Logan could actually do that beforehand. He shot bone. It came out of his hands. And so in the early goings of Wolverine, and our Predator has a similar thing here. You remember in the original movie, he had those long spikes that were jagged and came out of his wristband. These aren't steel spikes. They're I'm not exactly sure what they are, but you can see that they've made a change to these to show that the technology is not quite as big as it used to be. Will Predator aficionados appreciate those changes? I guess it depends on how hardcore are. But, considering you're dealing with a 300-year time gap, I think Mike Fields did an okay job with this and in rendering the helmet is completely different. I mean, good Lord, the helmet is nothing at all like we're used to, and it again is kind of the difference between steel and bone. When you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I think for a time period piece going back this far, these changes were okay with me. It will be interesting though to see how they sit with the true Predator fans. Okay, I got rid of the 20th Century Fox. I don't know, so I don't confuse things, and so I don't get nasty letters and emails from the Disney folk, who would probably not appreciate that anymore. Let me tell you a little bit about what's happening here. As I said, the movie supposedly takes place in the year 1719. In September, they even nailed the month down over in the Great Plains. Now. And it's the Great Northern Plains too. This breaks from the canon of Predator because if you'll recall all the way back to the beginning, especially in Predator 1 and Predator 2, the Predator showed up when it was exceptionally hot. That gave to the obvious conclusion that the Predators came from a very hot, steamy, warm planet. They would come down to the jungles, and meet Arnold when it was very hot. In New York City, when they came down and met Danny Glover, it was exceptionally hot, and therefore, September and the northern Great Plains. No, you can't really say it's balmy. You're not going to bring out the thong bikini and walk around the grass. No, it's just not going to happen. So that breaks a little bit from the canon, and probably won't fit in exceptionally well. Now, what we have here is a tribe of Indians. They're Comanche, and here's where things start to go a little bit wrong. And we can pin this on writer who is Patrick Eisen. He is a veteran and has done some good work in the past, but you can tell he was writing this under the thumb of Disney, because what we have here is a squaw who wants to be a warrior. All right. So as a result, she is often slacking in her duties for the tribe. She is disobeying not only her parents, but her elders in the tribe, because she somehow feels a need to prove that she is as good as a man. Now, the reason that's a problem in writing is because it's taking the mores of a modern society and a woman in today's modern society and attempting to infuse it back into the 1700s. It doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. And, with just a little bit of reading of history, you can find out why this is not anything except propaganda from Disney. Now, this is not to say that along the line, you probably didn't have some feisty females who were bucking the system back in the day. But what didn't happen was tolerance. All right? If you rebelled, if you went outside of the norms, especially in tribal life, you were simply let go from the tribe. You were put out in the wilderness and you did not last long. Okay? So there was no tolerance for this type of behavior. And the fact that she is coming through this way just it does not fit, and it is people do this all the time for agenda's sake. They take today's modern thoughts and ideologies and they transport them back into the past, and it just doesn't. And I'll tell you something else that doesn't work here. When we critics received the material for this movie, the opening paragraph talked about, oh, this is, the next in the continuing line of the Predator franchise. And then it went on for 3 pages about how they tried to be as authentic as possible to the Indian way of life. And they list all of the different Indian consultants whom they, gathered information from and used to make the film, to make sure that they had all these little intricacies correct and all these. And when you read the credits at the end of this movie, oh my God, you get all kind of, crazy Indian names in there, like moon over sun. And so, okay, that was all legit. They went and they grabbed legitimate. So why did nobody pick up on the fact that this woman would have been ostracized from her tribe and tossed? Well, no, because, we're doing this for the girls. It's Disney who promotes the mantra, the future is female. Yeah, right. And it began in 1700. Get bent, okay? This stuff just doesn't fly. And to prove that they have all this authenticity from the Indian culture, they do a thing where it's half and half, okay? So half of the time, the folks are talking in English, and the other half of the time, they're using Indian phraseology and terms and what have you. Okay, this is a mistake, all right? Because these Indians were not bilingual, all right? So you either put them all in the Indian dialect and then have subtitles down at the bottom, or you have them all speak English. And we run into a problem here because when they speak English, they're using today's ideograms. You can't use today's idioms in 1700. They didn't fit in there, like, all right, guys, it's time to bring it home. No, what are you talking about? It's not a hockey game. So we have some difficulty here because we need to fit in the all-important agenda. And just to continue my rant about the language in this thing, naturally a bunch of white men come along, all right? And the white men are the bad guys, not the predator. The white guys are, because they're killing the buffalo, okay? So they're the bad guys. When they come on the scene, they are French. So they are speaking in French. But you don't get the same courtesy you do with the Indians. It's not like they're speaking in French and then English and then, using French terminology so you understand what they're... No, they're talking totally in French and you have no subtitles. Yikes! Who thought of this? What are you trying to prove here? Okay? So none of that works. And let me tell you something. I don't think this movie is going to go over well in France. I really don't. Or anybody who is of French descent. Because these guys, these hunters of buffalo on the plains who are French, they shoot about as good as the Imperial stormtroopers. All right, let me give you the names of some of the people involved in this. I already told you that Dane Diliegro plays the Predator. Nauru is our protagonist. She is played by Amber Mid-Thunder. And she is the woman who is a modern, 21st century woman stuck back in 1700 times. Can you believe that? Okay. Her brother, Tabe, is played by Dakota Beavers. And those are the three main people involved in this conflict that goes on. Now, here's another thing that, yeah, Professor, you're really nitpicking on this. No, things bother me. Naru, who is Amber Midthunder, even though it's the 1700s and she is literally thousands of miles away from Asia, she invents the Manriki Gazari. When I saw this, I was like, what is happening? Okay. You remember, Tadashi Yamashita used to be very good at this, for those of you who are true martial arts aficionados. He would always tie cords and strings to traditional martial arts weapons and turn them into. You remember he did that with kamas? And he would actually maneuver kamas like most people would maneuver nunchakus, okay? An amazing thing to see. He did it in a Chuck Norris movie called The Octagon, and it was a whole lot of fun to watch. But here we have Naru, who is creating her own Manriki Gazari, and not only does she create it, she masters it. I mean, she is moving. Let me go back again. On screen, the one person who has used the Manriki who just is absolutely amazing at it is Jet Li. All right? Well, let me tell you, he's got nothing on Naru. When she makes her version of the Manriki, holy moly, does she have some moves? So, what? All right, I know that's a bit too much into the martial arts, but if you're going to put them in a movie, hey, and here's another thing. When she finally does get to confront the predator, she uses parkour. All right. Now, I don't know, it wasn't in the movie. Perhaps when she encountered the French hunters, they imparted parkour knowledge onto her. Otherwise, there's really no explanation for how she learned this. She's in the teepee crushing plants. Ah!
A whitetail. Sorry. Maui. Nita.
So Dan Trottenberg is the director of this. Again, he is a veteran. Disney was smart in bringing in the veterans to try to put this thing together. But you can tell they're working under the Disney thumb, applied strictly to their carotid creative artery on this thing. Let me tell you a little bit about Predator before I go ahead and wrap this up for you. The first Predator was excellent. The second Predator, as it was produced, was not as good. All right. However, as a bona fide film critic and your cinematic professor, I had the opportunity to peruse the original script for Predator 2. And Arnold was coming back as Dutch in that movie. That script was pretty damn good, and it would have made a hell of a lot better movie than the Danny Glover product. As you may know, Arnold backed out of doing Predator 2 because he became exceptionally upset with McTiernan because he couldn't get a helicopter as his wife was delivering their baby, Maria Shriver, Schwarzenegger at the time. But he wanted to go see his baby, and they wouldn't get him the helicopter. So he said, "Okay, I'll finish this, and I'm done." And that's what happened to the story. So Hollywood legend would have it. And without him in that role, they had to obviously change the script, and it didn't come out as good. Every other movie, after you get past those first two, well, they weren't that good. All right. The only one that was even a little bit plausible was Predator, the one with Adrian Brody, okay, where they actually pick up the people and take them to the hunting planet. Okay, that one was a little bit of a stretch, but yeah, we could live by with that. The rest of them, especially the AVP movies, they were just absolutely dreadful. All right, they were just not good at all. So, how does Prey fit into this? Well, better than some, not as good as others, okay? Is it a welcome addition to the Predator franchise? Nah, probably not. And for the reason that I detailed in this rather lengthy capsule critique, there is entirely too much of modern Moores put into this story and this script for it to be in any way, shape, or form viable. Could they have done the movie without all that nonsense? Absolutely, and it certainly would have been a hell of a lot better. Certainly don't have the Indians speaking in idioms from today's language. I mean, that's just, it reminded me of the old TV show Hercules with Kevin Sorbo, where they would, you know, especially Salmanius, would always put out these modern ideas, and everybody would look at them like, "What are you talking about?" It's that kind of a thing. All right, so. I like the idea that they tried to show the Predator coming down to the planet and being a little bit, 300 years before we've come to know him and some of the changes that are there. So, okay. The conclusion of this movie is sketch, very sketch. All right. Our heroine, Naru, figures out the workings of the Predator helmet probably too quick for the time period. Okay, not only did she learn parkour and make a man reiki without any training, but suddenly now she's become a geometric whiz on. Yeah, it doesn't, and learns about laser tracking. It doesn't quite fit that way. The ending of this is cut in a way that, well, I was glad I had a screening link, because I was actually able to go back and say, wait a minute, what did I miss? What happened here? And able to watch the fight scene again, pausing it at certain key scenes so I could see what they were doing. And wow, yeah, I don't think so. Okay. So that's kind of weak. I like the older Predator. I like the idea that it happened long before. And the other thing that I liked, and most people are going to skip this, at the very end of the movie, before the credits roll or as they begin, there is a drawing that kind of explains what happens that you don't see on camera. Okay? And I picked it up right away and I went, oh. And I think if they had shown that on camera, this movie might have raised up a few notches, and I may have given it a nice thumbs up, as an addition to the Predator franchise. It's very hard to beat everything that was done in that first one. It really is. That first one is just absolutely amazing. This one will stand well. I mean, we'll give them a nice C for effort. But, once again, Disney has shot itself in the foot. And I don't think true Predator fans are going to appreciate this movie, even with some of the nice gimmicks going in there. And even some rather nice photography by Jeff Cutter, who has, staged things rather well. I think this one's going to be a tough one to swallow. And the folks at Disney must have thought so too, because this bad boy is heading straight to Hulu. It's not even going to Disney Prime, as they say. It's going over to Hulu, and it will be streamed there. That probably tells you all you need to know. So, nice try, but the fears of all those folks who thought the Disney people would destroy this iconic character are realized. Wait until they do Alien versus Ewoks. Now that you have learned what you have learned. Here it is.